Okay, hi everybody, and thanks for watching. We've got Amy Hardwick with us this afternoon, who is a coach in the handball space in England. She'll introduce herself a little bit more in a second, but this is the first part, if you like, of the Coach Development Webinar series that we're taking a focus on developing female coaches. We couldn't do this one live, so we've got this one pre-recorded for you to join the second part, which is going to be taking place later on this week. So, Amy, would you like to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone. As Bobby just said, I'm Amy Hardwick. I am a handball coach, have been for the past sort of 5-6 years. Currently coaching at Peninsula Handball Club based on the Wirral, also still a player. And then the past sort of year and a half, I've also been working with the national teams.
Great, thanks, Amy. And obviously, you've alluded to that you're involved in handball across multiple levels at the moment. But what inspired you to get involved in handball coaching?
So initially, it started in school. So I was the only girl in my year, well, the only person in my year actually that even played handball. So I played with the older girls. So once they left, my PE teacher just asked me if I wanted to sort of help coaching. It started from there, really, helping with extracurricular sessions with the girls and the boys. And then we also went into a local primary school for a few months, did some mini handball with like 6 and 7-year-olds, which was crazy. But yeah, it started from there, really. And then again at my club, I was the oldest, so there was one year where I couldn't play competitively. So I again just started help to coach from there, and then got my own under 16s team, and then progressed. And as our coach left, I've sort of taken over and now in charge, really.
Okay, so essentially the reins have been handed over to you to take over. I mean, you're still playing, you're still very young. You started coaching when you were very young. What was it like for you taking over or being involved as that leader when you was at school, taking over the sessions in the extracurricular sessions, because you were coaching kids the same age as you? Like, what was it like to be that person?
Yeah, so they were like a year younger, so it was quite strange to try and get that dynamic, because you're having very similar experiences, you're at very similar age. So I think the girls really responded well to it, actually, though, because they could relate to me and then I could relate to them. But yeah, it was challenging to try and get that bond, like the coach-player bond, rather than like sort of being seen as friends.
Okay, yeah, I can imagine coaching players on a similar age group to yourself being a real challenge, especially if it's your first steps into it as well. Okay.
And at the club as well, it was my teammates that I was coaching, so I think I was 17, 18, and I was still coaching and playing with them as well. And then the year after, I was just the coach, but they'd known me as a teammate for the past 3 years.
Sure.
And my sister was also in the team. So yeah, again, very strange, but it was great.
Awesome. So clearly, like, you had an inclination to do the coaching and to take over from your PE teacher, if you like, and then when the coach at Peninsula's handed you the reins. So you've had this inclination, but what other opportunities have you taken along the way? Because I imagine it isn't just as simple as saying, right, okay, you've been a player, can you take over as a coach? What have you done to sort of move your coaching on?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it started when I did the ACE program, which is now DICE. So I did my level 1 when I was doing that, and then a few years later I did my level 2, because I obviously needed the qualifications and I wanted to start going to schools to coach, and I would have been on my own, obviously with a teacher, but yeah, so I needed that certification, and then I decided that I really, really enjoyed the coaching, so then I decided to take on a uni degree. So 3 years of sport coaching undergrad, and then I love that so much that I went back again and did my master's in sports coaching, and then throughout those years I've done different things. So I went to the EHF Young Coaches Workshop last year in Hungary, which was amazing. So you sort of only one coach from each country in Europe, so it was like a real honour to be asked to go. And I learned a lot from that. We had some really great mentors, but also I think learning from the other coaches, because obviously handball's played slightly differently everywhere, and it's obviously a lot bigger sort of mainland Europe than it is over here. So just to sit on the sidelines and watch the other coaches do their sessions and talk to them about why they did certain things, how they approach it a certain way, that was really interesting. I found that sort of really, really useful. And then even just at home during competitions, I quite like to observe the other coaches as well and see how they interact with their athletes, how they react to different situations in a game. So yeah.
That's great. I mean, I really love the blend of the kind of more formal, if you like, NGB qualification route. You did your level 1, level 2 as normal. You've gone into the academic world quite deeply, as we were talking before. You're about to commence your PhD, and you know, we'll talk about that in a bit. But you know, fully immersed in the academic side of it, and you've taken like lots of practical opportunities along the way. I mean, even starting from a young age and taking the EHF opportunity, you've worked with us in a number of capacities, going out and supporting us with our futures program. So I'm really interested to know, first of all, and you can talk about both, but from an academic perspective, what have been like the biggest light bulb moments for you, and then from a practical hands-on experience, what's been the biggest lesson? So can you talk about it from an academic perspective, and then also from the practical applied stuff?
So I think obviously 4 years of doing sport coaching degrees, really there's a lot there to learn. A couple of things that I think probably even stood out quite early on in my undergrad degree was coaching philosophy. So I touched upon it in my level 2, but you don't really go into too much detail. So I think talking about that on throughout my degree, that really stood out to me, and I even did my dissertation on it as well. And the importance, it guides your practice. And I think if you understand your philosophy and why you're doing certain things, you can then communicate that with your athletes. And I think then that builds that relationship with them. They can understand why you are approaching things in a certain way. And then secondly, I think it would be reflection. So I've always known you should reflect as a coach, but never really understand how important it is. So you can do it obviously during your practice by changing little things. And then afterwards, what went well, what didn't go well, how can I change that? Maybe even how did it affect your athletes? Were they enjoying it? Because at the end of the day, they're the most important part of the whole process. That's why you're there, is for the athletes. So to get their feedback on that as well and include that in your reflection, I think is really important. And then from a practical sort of sense, I think one thing that's really stood out is accounting for everyone's individual sort of needs and making sure you alter your training to suit everyone. So I think from previous experience, I've seen coaches treat all the athletes the same in terms of whether it be the same humour, they do the same drills, they communicate with them the same way, and it just doesn't work at all. There's one example I think that stands out where there was 2 players and they were completely different, probably complete opposites to each other. Not necessarily in how they played, but just their personalities. Sure. One very introvert, one quite extrovert. And the coach would try and, if they did something wrong, they try and make a joke out of it with both of them. The girl who was very extrovert found it hilarious, reacted to it really well. The girl who was introvert, she'd just go into a shell even more. And then that was sort of her gone for the rest of the session. So I think really getting to know your athletes and know what motivates them, why they're there, and then also how to communicate with them. Like, a lot of them don't like being put on the spot. So if they do something wrong, they'd rather you just speak to them on the side and say, oh, how can you do that differently next time? So yeah, I think getting to know your athletes and how they tick and what motivates them and how to communicate with everyone individually, not just as a team.
Good. That's great, and we've had a few webinars over the course of this series where we've really gone into the reflection, the philosophy stuff, and certainly those individual player interactions has been a key theme as well. So it's great that you've touched upon that. Now, going back to your kind of development as a coach, as this episode is more or less focusing on that, have you experienced similar situations from like interacting with tutors? I mean, because I know I tutored you. You can be as honest as you like, because I know I assessed. I think I might have assessed you on your level 2. Yeah,
you did. On goalkeeping, of all the things I could have got.
under the spotlight on that one, and then obviously you've had like some lots of mentoring opportunities along the way as well. So you can talk about the tutors, the people that have helped you, maybe not helped you so much as you might have thought, and stuff like that. Feel free to ad lib on this one.
Yeah, I think I've been quite lucky. I don't really think I've had any sort of negative experiences. I think all the tutors I've had, sort of from you to Rob, the coach who used to be the coach at Peninsula, to Bill now, who's sort of been mentoring me for the past like 18 months, taking me under his wing. I think everyone has contributed differently, and everyone's given me different things to sort of learn and to think about. And I think everything's been positive. I don't really think I've had, as I said, I've been really lucky, and I don't think I've had a negative experience. Maybe the only thing is that I don't really think I've had a female mentor, and I don't really think I've had a female sort of coach to look up to. Obviously, I've been coached by, I think, one female coach throughout the 9 years I played handball. And that I really did enjoy that, but I think having that one person to sort of look up to, and I think when I was younger, when I looked up to sort of the higher up coaches, there wasn't really that many female coaches. It was outnumbered. It was very male dominated. So I think in that sense it would have been nice to have a female mentor, because obviously you can relate differently to each other than with a male mentor. But other than that, I've not really had any negative experiences, and I think I've learned something from each of you guys that have mentored me.
That's great, and yeah, I can't empathise completely with the situation with not having a female coach to look up to, but obviously that's why we're doing episodes like this, and we've got Lucy Moore from Sport England who's going to be talking with us on Friday in the second part of this series about her perspectives on how to develop more female coaches, because clearly it's something that we should do, not just because it's for the equal opportunities side of it, but certainly from giving athletes the best experience that they can have by accessing the coaches that they can best relate to would be a really good idea for all sports. So just whilst we're talking about this kind of subject area, what's been the biggest challenges for you to develop yourself over the course of, you said you've been very lucky, and I'm not sure if that's opportunity begets opportunity, or you're putting yourself out there to access the opportunities, but you've clearly had a nice opportunity to access various different things, but along the way, have there been some barriers for you to access certain things?
So other than the sort of lack of female role models for myself, I think my biggest barrier is my own self. It's my own confidence. I think a lot of people have more confidence in me coaching than I have in myself, and I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. So I think that's something that only really I can work on. And I think I don't know why I don't have a lot of confidence in myself. Obviously, I've done 2 degrees. I've coached for probably 8 years now, and I've played for about 8 or 9 years. Sorry, and coached for 5.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sort of give me opportunities and provide me with the chance to coach at sort of help Bill at national levels and help with the GB squad and the future squad. So I think it's just trying to find that self-belief and that self-confidence. And I think for a lot of female coaches that might be the same, is the confidence in yourself to just go for it. And I think in the past 18 months, that's why I've sort of said yes to more things, whereas in the past I would have said no, and I would have shied away from it. I think in the past 18 months I've really sort of come out of my shell a bit, even though I have been coaching for sort of longer than that. I think that saying yes to all these opportunities and listening to people's advice, I think that really has helped.
I wonder if there's something in the like imposter syndrome that's going on here. Like you don't believe that you're good enough to be there, but also coupled with the fact that you're so used to seeing male coaches at those levels delivering stuff in perhaps different ways, to which it might be deemed as kind of like a more traditional leadership, autocratic kind of approach to things. Like you've clearly worked with Bill, who's a very experienced coach who has no problems going in and he's like controls the room really, really well, gets the attention really well, and you worked with Rob for a long time, who I imagine has a very similar kind of like persona. So seeing coaches role model that behaviour quite often might make you feel like, well, I can't do it like that. I've got to find my way. And if you'd have had, I don't know, female coaching role models to look up to yourself that might have done it in a different way, that might have supported you.
I agree. I think I've seen coaches not coach the same, but have the same sort of approach. And I think I'm sort of a little bit more laid back in that, and I like the athletes to kind of try and solve the problems for themselves. Not that these coaches don't, but yeah, I think I like to stand off a bit more, and then I don't think I can control the room as well as some other coaches.
Well, that's definitely something that probably comes with more and more opportunities, more and more experience and learning. But I'm sure it's something that will develop for you over the time. So before I get into some of the final bits, because we're going to wrap this up pretty soon, what's the future hold for you? We mentioned just before about you starting your PhD. What's the future hold for Amy Hardwick? Where do you want to go with your academic stuff, and where do you want to go with the handball coaching?
So I'm starting my PhD earlier this month. I'm doing that part-time alongside working as a research assistant at John Moore's. So that's going to be 5 years, the PhD, which is obviously a long time. So I'll be 28 when I finish it. In terms of what I want to do after that sort of career progression, I've not really got a plan sort of set in stone. I've been quite lucky and sort of been given these opportunities. And I'm not really following a set sort of path. I'm just sort of going with the flow, doing what makes me happy at the time. And then I'll just sort of see what comes from it. And then coaching wise, obviously, I love coaching at Peninsula. I can't see stopping that anytime soon, coaching and playing. We've got our first session back tonight, actually, which I'm really excited about, although it is fitness, so I don't know how excited everyone else is going to be.
Okay.
But yeah, looking forward to that. And then I think just trying to work more with the national teams. Bill's been a really, really great support, and he's given me lots of opportunities to help him with the GB under-19 setup. And again, yourself with the futures, going out to Denmark last year. Unfortunately, we're not going this year, obviously, because of the whole situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just progressing along that nicely. And again, and being more confident in myself to say yes to opportunities and to doing things.
Cool. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a full-on few years in front of you with the PhD and stuff like that. What's the title of your PhD?
So it might be tweaked a little bit, but it's how coaches within the Special Olympics context learn and develop their knowledge and practice.
Amazing. So you'll get to, I don't know, sample lots of different coaching journeys along that, especially working in kind of unique context as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap up now. So my final question is, Amy, is what advice would you give to young female coaches or female coaches in general that are, looking to develop their coaching or get involved in handball coaching or any other kind of coaching that they're interested in getting involved in? What would you advise them, having gone through it, yourself as a young girl?
Yeah, so I think I'd probably pinpoint 4 things which I've spoken about throughout this whole conversation. So the first one would be to say yes to opportunities and say yes to experiences. Don't be afraid of saying yes to them. Secondly, be confident in yourself, which obviously I need to take that advice myself, is to be more confident. And then always look for opportunities that you can learn and develop from. So that links to saying yes to the opportunities. And then be open to feedback and don't be afraid to ask questions. So if someone's giving you feedback, they're not criticising you, they're not trying to put you down, they're trying to help you progress. So just take that on board and don't take it personally.
Okay, great. So some nice, 4 concise things that coaches can take away. Amy, it's been really great getting you onto the webinar series. I've known you for a long time, seen you develop through from the ACE program and now into your coaching. And it's great to see someone coming through and making huge strides. So thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences. And good luck with the PhD, because I think you're going to need it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Guys, so as I said, this is the first part to the kind of bigger episode with Lucy Moore this Friday. We'll try and connect the videos up so it's a bit seamless. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again, Amy, and all the best.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.